Welcome to the Lechtich Parsha podcast, where we delve into the Torah's timeless wisdom and uncover uplifting and empowering lessons tailored to the challenges of our generation.
Good day, Erev Shabbos, Parshas Emor, Tovshin Pei Daled. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a wonderful week. This week's shir is sponsored by Reb David and Mrs. Rachel Taub of Lakewood, New Jersey, in honor of the engagement of their grandson Benny Taub of Monsey, New York, to Naomi Fishman of Lakewood, New Jersey. Mazel Tov to the entire and extended Taub and Fishman families. May the couple be zeicher to build a bayis ne'eman in Yisrael and bring tremendous nachas to the families, to themselves, and to all of Klal Yisrael. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, Meridian Senior Health, Bluestone Brokerage, and the Hassans Also Law Firm, for future dedications to sponsor the weekly publication and podcast in honor of an occasion, a simcha, a yahrzeit, a birthday, anniversary, whatever it may be. We can accommodate it. Please reach out to 845-367-2959. So there is a psychological phenomenon confirmed known as imposter syndrome, which is when someone doubts their abilities and feels like a fraud, even though he has a track record of accomplishments and success. And this phenomena evokes feelings of inadequacy or unworthiness despite external success. While in the world of psychology, this phenomena is recognized and is legitimate and is substantial and has a name called the imposter phenomena. In the Torah, we call this katnus ha'adam or shiflus, which is essentially the same thing. It's a feeling of smallness, unworthiness, inadequacy, inferiority. While in the medical world, they may prescribe pills to address this, to heal this. In the Torah, we know this is regular, part of the grind, part of life, and we have to just deal with it. We go through the ups, we go through the downs, and at the end of the day, we all know that a yid is comprised of a nefesh habahami, the outer shell, which hosts the inner, the panim, the nefesh, the ruach, the neshama, and the avodah of life, by and large, is to get through these times of katnas ha'adam, to get through these times of shiflus, these times where we feel inadequate and incapable. And with Hashem's help, we move through them, we move past them. And if we're lucky, they're able to be used as building blocks, not just as times that we get through, that we look past, that we regret. Rather, we, in hindsight at least, can use them to build us stronger, greater, and help us propel further, greater, and reach new heights. The hardest part about these times is that these tkufas, these times, are presented to us by the Satan, and it's the Satan who wants us to sully and identify with this pain and the feelings of inadequacy, to hamper our progress and to squander our aspirations and make us feel deficient and incapable of shining like the stars we truly are. And he'll want us to sit and mope and feel bad and low and detached as long as we can, in order that we can accumulate avirus and israchkus, feeling far and detached. And the longer we exhibit that, the better off the Satan is, the happier he is, because chas v'shalom rachman al-tzlan, unfortunately, we all know to some degree what that's like, and these fighters we have to fight and overcome, as always. Our job as Yidden is to realize that we have a nefesh alekim, a tzelem alekim, the ruach alekam imal, that's blown into each and every one of us, and to be able to get through these times and shake off the dust and realize the falsity that's the driving force behind these times. And although they are necessary, and Hashem is the one that orchestrates it and puts these times, these challenging situations in front of us, but at the end, we have to have a certain amount of resolve in order to overcome and to become strengthened from these times, as opposed to falling apart and shattered from these times. While there are different perspectives and approaches in how to deal with the lows of life, how exactly to get through them, there's an incredible story about the Chafetz Chaim that I'd like to share. The Chafetz Chaim used to travel and sell Sfarim, and one day he arrived in Vilna and went in an inn to eat and rest. Seated next to him was another Yid, another person, which was obvious because only a Jew would pay extra money for kosher food. This man who sat down ordered a hot drink and food, and ate the food very quickly without saying a bracha, without wearing a yarmulke, without benching. The Chafetz Chaim observed this, saw exactly what happened, and of course, being the great tzaddik that he was, he felt this innate urge to approach him and offer chizik and guidance. The innkeeper saw exactly what was going on. He saw this man sit down, and he saw the Chafetz Chaim, how he was excited to utilize the opportunity of Kiruv Choikim, to be mechazik this other Yid. And the innkeeper came over and intervened, and he said, the Chafetz Chaim, please don't go over to him and rebuke him. You don't understand. This person is a mercenary. He was taken from his home as a child, a 7-year-old boy, stolen and drafted into the Tsar Nicholas's army, and became a cantonist. He served in the army for 25 years. He was away from home since the time he was 7, and now he's 32. And during his time in the army, he was taught to kill and to be violent. And obviously he was doing Avodah Zarah and Shvichas Damim, Gilui Arayos, eating tarfus, machalas asuras, kol mina averis, all type of averis. He's experienced, he's done. And he said, Kvod Rav, Chafetz Chaim, I don't think you should go over to him. And he said, he's a very strong and well-trained individual. And chas v'shalom, if you rub him the wrong way, he can be violent with you. The Chafetz Chaim accepted the advice of the innkeeper, looked at him, smiled, and said, I'll be okay. The Chafetz Chaim went over to the man and said, Shalom Aleichem. And the man looked up at the Chafetz Chaim, looked down, because the Chafetz Chaim was actually very short. And the Chafetz Chaim said, I heard so much about you. I heard that you're taken from your parents at such a young and tender age. And instead of growing up with the loving parents who would protect you, instead, you were exposed to a world of violence and barbarism for the Tsar. And instead of receiving a Yiddish education, learning Aleph, Beis, and Chumash, you were taught to use weapons and worship of Avodah Zarah in the Russian church. It was against your will that you were forced to forget your Jewish roots and the Torah that you've been taught. And instead you ate treif and machalas asuras and committed averis. And the Chafetz Chaim continued, I am so jealous of you. I wish I had a chelik in Olam Haba just like you. The man's jaw dropped. His eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. He couldn't believe the words he was hearing from a man with a long white beard, obviously the great tzaddik. Moved by the recognition and warmth of the tzaddik, the man asked, Who are you, Rabbi? And the Chafetz Chaim said, My name is Yisrael Meir Kagan. And the man nearly jumped out of his seat. Everyone knew the Chafetz Chaim. And he said, What? You're the Chafetz Chaim? And you're jealous of me? How can it be? How can you possibly be jealous of me? And the Chafetz Chaim explained, I'm jealous of your chelik in Olam Haba. You've been out of the Jewish community. You've been out of the loop for 25 years. You've endured literally Gehenim on earth. You have every reason to abandon the path, forget it all, and just enjoy yourself now. But instead, you've chosen to be better. Instead of getting away easy and paying a fifth of the price, going to a non-kosher tavern, you came over here to this kosher place to satiate yourself. After all you've endured, after all you've experienced, you're still showing up for the king. By merely showing up to this tavern, you're showing what a drive and desire you have to maintain your innate holiness and purity. You've chosen to make Hashem proud. And after all you've gone through, your determination and sacrifice are what I envy. The Chafetz Chaim saw that he made an indelible impression on this man and used the opportunity to continue. The Chafetz Chaim added, You're absolutely incredible. And if you took just a few moments to learn some basic things about Yiddishkeit, about your place in heaven, your lot for eternity would be indescribable. The man, his eyes lit up. He showed he was ready to accept. And he said, Rebbe, what must I do? And the Chafetz Chaim said, you have to put on a yarmulke, you have to make brachas, you have to bench. And the Chafetz Chaim went step by step and kept up with him and slowly taught him. And from this encounterance, this hardened soldier became a complete Baal Tshuva. Instead of focusing on all the bad and telling this Yid what a Rasha he is, the Chafetz Chaim chose to focus on the positive aspects. He recognized the sacrifice the man made by eating in a kosher tavern, even though he wasn't wearing a yarmulke, and he didn't say a bracha, and he didn't bench. The Chafetz Chaim understood that by acknowledging the good the man was doing and highlighting his sacrifice, these actions held the potential to overcome the 30 years of pain, angst, disconnection, and anger. And from this encounter, a hardened soldier miraculously emerged as a complete Baal Tshuva. This Yid went through the lows. Boy, did he go through the lows. He went through Gehenim. But the Chafetz Chaim knew more. He knew better. He knew that to access the Chelik HaKamimal, the Pintel Yid, he would focus on the good. He would highlight the extraordinary acts of heroism for the Eibishter, acts of incredible sacrifice for the Divine, for the Almighty, and that would be his chance to hook him back in. V'kachavo, he was successful because he knew how to access someone from the lows by displaying and by reminding them how truly great and incredible they are just for being a Yid, just for being holy and pure and staying devoted and determined to shine for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In this week's parsha, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe, Emor el HaKahanim, Bnei Aharon, ve'omarta alehem, lenefesh lo yitam b'amov. Hashem said to Moshe, Emor lekahanim, say to the kahanim, v'amarta alehem, and tell them, l'nefesh lo yitam abamov. All the Mefarshim ask the very obvious question, what's the meaning, the explanation behind the seeming redundance over here? The pasuk said, Emor lekahanim, tell the kahanim. So what's v'amarta alehem? Tell them. We just said Emor lekahanim. So what's the redundancy of Emor v'amarta? Say to them and tell them. Rashi quotes the famous Gemara in Yevamos Daf Kuf Yudaled, which says Lahaze gedolim al katanim, which means the pasuk shot on the pasuk is HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving a special, unique commandment over here for the katanim, that even though generally katanim are not mechuyev in mitzvahs, in the positive commandments and in the negative, nevertheless, when it comes to tumah, to being metama, to contaminating, to a corpse, over here there's a special chiddush that even the youngsters, the ketanim, cannot become contaminated. So there's two amiras, there's two different mandates. Emor lekahanim, tell the kahanim, and then v'amarta alehem means that the kahanim should tell their children. So there's two separate, distinct amiras, sayings, one to the kahanim and one from the kahanim to the children. That's what the Gemara says. Says the heilige Reb Meilech, the heilige Reb Meilech of Lezensk, Api Drush, an astounding pshat for all of our Avodas Hashem, which is based on this Gemara, Lahazer Gedolim al Haktanim, which means to warn the Gedolim al Haktanim, the elders on the youngsters. Says Reb Meilech, the pshat is, we all go through what the Svarim called Muchim Ktanim and Muchim Gedolim, times of greatness and times of lowliness. When we're going through the katnus, when we're going through the low times, the times where we feel disconnected, the times where we feel uncertain, the times where we don't know what are we meant to do. During those times, the Satan creeps in and he tries to get us to lose focus, tries to get us to do Averis, tries to get us to forget about Hashem. And then we think, you know what, he's taka right. We're low, we're disconnected, we don't know what's going on anyway, we might as well. Says Reb Meilech, the Pshan of the Gemara, Lahazer Gedoil Malktane means even when we're in a matzav of katnus, Lahazer Gedoilim, don't forget about the gadlus, about the greatness, about the uniqueness, about the speciality of each and every yid, about yourself, about you. Don't forget that you're innately holy, connected, pure, driven, full of aspirations, and achelik alekamimal, and that Hashem only wants your best interests in mind. And while we go through the downs, the lows, which are inevitable and part of the journey, but nevertheless, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's an Eibishter, and there's a King that's going to help us get through, that's going to help us reach that light. This is what it means, Lahazer Gedolim Aktanim, that even when we're feeling bekatnus, Lahazer Gedolim, don't forget about the intrinsic godless, intrinsic greatness that lies within each and every one of us. When the Chafetz Chaim met the detached Yid in the tavern, he didn't focus on his chesroinus. He didn't chastise him about the fact that his head wasn't covered, or that he forgot to make a bracha. He used the good, the positive, the godless, about the fact that after all he's endured, he's still showing up for the King. Even without his amoko, even without the bracha, he's sitting in a kosher place. He's still showing up for the Melech. And Reb Meilech is telling us that's the idea of this week's parsha. Lizar gedolim al ktanim. We all go through times of katnus. And during those times, we have to remember that we're intrinsically, essentially, a gadol. We have to remind ourselves who we really are. Va'amech kulam tzadikim. Which means that when we're doing good things, when we're going through the highs, we have to store it away. We have to make a special bank and store away a portion of that goodness, of those elevated, exalted times in our ruchnius, whether it's from learning, from davening, doing chesed, saying tehillim, whatever it may be. But to let those times permeate and transcend us to different levels and take away a chelik of that and put it away for the future, for the times we go down. Because those times are going to happen, because it's part of the journey. It's part of being a lech dechid. And then, when we go through those times, when we go through the lows, we access those times, we remind ourselves who we really are, we remind ourselves of the godless, of how we really are, what we really should be, and then we'll be able to get through anything. Lizar gedolim aktanim. We're never really a katan, because we're always a gadol. And when we're doing things that are great, capitalize, tap into it, really live it, so that no matter what situation we're going through, whatever we endure, whatever we face, whatever challenge, we'll always be able to remind ourselves who you really are. As we prepare for Kabbalah Satira, perhaps in Eitzah, we're going to probably find ourselves one time or another over the next few weeks before Kabbalah Satira, where we're not feeling it, we're not feeling connected, we're not sure. Remind yourself one time, Lizar Gedalim Akatanim. that you're intrinsically great, you're about to be Makabel the Torah, you're counting the Sphira, you're trying to be good, you're trying to do the right thing, and let that goodness, let that recognition of the great person you really are overflow and spill over to whatever situation you're going through, and let that pick you up, let that elevate you, and let that reconnect you to the Eibishter, to Avodas Hashem, to doing mitzvahs, and to get right back to who you are and where you really belong. May we be zeicha to Yeshuas, Nechamas, Besuras Toivus, and Geula Bekarv with the building of the Bayis Shlishi, with Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Meher V'Amenu. Amen. I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I wish you all a wonderful Shabbos. I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbos.